Hey, folks. Hey, folks, what's going on? Sorry, I'm a little late getting here today, as usual, but today was even a little later than usual. Let's see if I can balance out the light here a little bit, because it's crazy right now. It's funny, when I do this, I can barely, because I got lights in here, I can barely have them on, or I look like my video lights, or you look like a ghost. If I do that, it tends to help balance it out a little. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. I just need a better webcam or something. Anyways, Evan Ward says he's never been here this early before. Well, then it's all good. Ben's in the house to help me out. Santa Fe, Brussels, New York City. What's up? Stay safe out there in New York City and Long Island. David's in Long Island. So how are you guys doing? It was a big week for YouTube for me for this week with the Steve Vai interview that I got to do and put up. I was just so excited about that. And there's more coming from that. He was so gracious with his time. So we spoke for about 90 minutes. And I got tons of great stuff. So it's Jose Marshall sitting right there. And right there, that one. So I've been working on a video this week, and it's really cool. It's going to be exciting, I think. So I got that going on. Put up a video for a nice pedal the other day. Eidolon, it's called. Delay and reverb in one pedal. What did I do with it? It's way over there. I'm not going to get it, but you guys can check that out. Nice pedal if you're looking for delay and reverb in a pedal. I guess it was made for somebody in a band. I'm forgetting what band it is now, but they kind of wanted a pedal to put in an effect loop of an amp to get some ambience, delay, reverb, and then also a boost, which makes sense. If you got a single channel amp, maybe you got like a modern JCM 800 or something, or, an amp like that. And then you want to get a solo boost, volume as well, not gain, but, overdrive, I mean. As well as a little bit of ambience, and so that's what it's for mainly. Surfby. Sorry, I never know how to say your name. Have you ever tried the tone prints on the TC Electronics pedals? Well, I have a couple. I made tone prints for their Corona Chorus, I think, and for the I made a modulated delay right when the Flashback Delay came out that people like. Generally speaking, it did really well. So I got a couple tone prints out, and I do like, especially that delay. The Flashback Delay is a terrific delay pedal, I think. And the Corona Chorus is pretty damn good sounding too. I like the Vibe too. It's a good pedal. Really nice. It's kind of, for a, because it's digital, I think, the digital simulation of a Vibe is really pretty good. Somebody's asking if Jose's still doing mods. Jose passed away, I think, in 97. So he's been gone a long time. His amps, like I did an interview for the video that's coming out on that amp, and Dave Friedman talks a lot about the different mods and stuff and what he did. And so there's people that know, like Dave is a primary kind of probably the world's, maybe authority on Jose mods, I would say, because I gotta give him crap because he's doing a tone talk right now. Why is he doing a tone talk right when I'm doing my live stream? I saw that when I signed on. I should text him right now. What are you doing? No, I'm sure they got a guest that probably could only do it at this time. But anyways, Dave knows all the mods because there wasn't like just one Jose mod. There was he used to do all kinds of things, I guess. Gain stage in front of a Plexi style circuit, like an extra tube, tying the two channels together like an internal jump burst for the bass and treble, or bass and normal channel. Treble and volume 1 and volume 2. You know what I mean, on a Plexi, whatever you want to call it. The Zener thing, which is like it's clipping diodes, sort of, but there's like the Zener diode things that they put in the circuit somewhere. that he used to put in the circuit somewhere. And it gives the amp a very aggressive kind of, well, it's kind of subtle, but it's nice. If you play metal, the Zener mod thing is really nice because it's got this chewy, aggressive thing. But what it's actually doing is limiting in the amplifier. And it does have a unique sound and feel to it that's actually really cool. I like it quite a bit. And that's something that Dave actually does in his amps. It's called the SAT switch on his BE amps and stuff, the saturation switch. You know, it does have kind of a saturated sort of sound and changes the feel too and stuff. So, but anyway, that was a Jose thing, and some other stuff that he used to do. So it's interesting. So he runs over a bunch of that stuff. Lauren says that was a great interview with Steve. It was great that you left his compliment to you in. That was so nice. He's really such a nice person. And he's just a hell of a guy, I think. So really, really nice. Bent Tom says Zener mode lowers the plate voltage. I didn't know that. That's above my pay grade. Love those Tone Talk videos, but man, they're long, says Ian. Yeah, they can get pretty long. Well, if you introduce booze and 3 people talking, then it gets you know, I've done them, and I think the one I did with John Sir ran 3.5 hours, I think. The time flies when you're just hanging out with your friends and talking about guitar. So it's kind of amazing. Have I tried the Ernie Ball Paradigm strings? I did actually, I think. Yeah, they sent me some 9s or like 8s, says Steven. Almost too slinky. I don't remember a change in feel. What are the strings that I use? The Primo Slinky 9.5. That's what I've been using, which I love. I will show them to you. I think I have some right here. Yeah. So truth be told, a while ago, I've been an Ernie Ball guy forever. And a while ago, I was in Japan and I tried a set of Diodario 9.5s because my strings were feeling really heavy. And then I found out I'm not crazy. When it's really humid and hot, in hot climates, strings can feel heavier, evidently. So I tried a set of Diodario 9.5s and I love them. You know, it was just the right switch for me. And I actually contacted my friends at Ernie Ball and I said, guys, I've been using your strings forever, but I think I need to go to this gauge, which means I don't know if I can use your strings now because, you know, the gauge was a really important thing to me. And they said, hold the presses, hold on. You don't need to switch. We've got 9.5s coming out, and sure enough, they did, and these are them. So before these came out, they sent me some blank packs that were like prototypes or whatever for this string that they now have out and everybody can get. And I just really love them. They go 9.5, 12, 16. So the 16 would be from the string on an 11s, in a 9 set, it would be 9, 11, 16, right? So this is 9.5, 12, 16, 24, 34, 44. So I'd say the G and the D are from a 9 set, right? 16 and a 24. That's a standard 9 gauge, I think. And then the 34, 44 are a little bit heavy. So the outer strings are just ever so slightly heavier, and the inner ones are not. A couple of people up there in the ultimate super top chat thing, like Arturo, what's up, man? He says he's curious why I like to run the Mobius in front of the amp as opposed to the effects loop. That's a great question. I used to run it both ways on my previous board. I had it because you can do that on a Mobius as long as you sort of sacrifice stereo if you do that, but you can use the 2 ins and outs to go pre and post and then pick, per effect if you want it to be. It's one of the things you can save per preset in the pre path or the post path. You will get a ground loop if you set it up like that. So you got to use isolation transformers to make it not hum, but it does work like that. For me, okay, so this is why I decided to just put it pre and I run it mono. I mainly use it for effects like tremolo or univibe. Sometimes it's my vibe on my board. It's the only one I have on there. What else do I use it for? Sometimes lo-fi effects and stuff like that. Occasionally, I would use a chorus or some modulation in it. But if I'm doing those things, I'm generally running a clean sound, those types of effects. I don't use a hell of a lot of modulation with dirty sounds, except for the flanger, which also I like to be up front, Eddie Van Halen style, like pretty far in front. even phaser, right? So all these things, I just thought, well, if I put it in loop 3 on my board and I run a compressor in front, and a fuzz is actually in front of it as well, but it's early on in my chain, but I can use it like for vibe and all that stuff. And I use it for touch wah too sometimes. Like it's a couple tours I've done where the singer wanted me to be out front, but I need a wah-wah sound. And I would be like, how the hell am I going to do that? Because I can't be back by my wah. So I would make a touch wah sound or an auto wah on the Mobius. And it worked great for that. And all this kind of stuff is stuff that you want early in the chain. So that's why I chose to use it. Now, yeah, if I was doing a lot of chorus or maybe, detune modulation, that kind of stuff, I would probably, want it later. But I do have the 2 H9s on the board in the loop running in stereo. So I can do all that stuff on those if I need to. So that's the answer why. I was mainly using it for that kind of, vibe and stuff like that and running it up front. And it just seemed to be, that was the majority of what I was using it for. So mostly with clean sounds. So once I'm using it with a clean sound, all my drives are after it. Doesn't matter where it is in the chain, really. As long as I got a compressor in front, I'm cool. A couple other people up there. Well, you guys, thanks for doing the super chat thing. It's Alex, and he says, morning, recent thread over on the gear page on loading and IRs, not considering one box convenience for just loading in a big amp and reamping in the room. Do you prefer the PS2 so reactive load with what power amp? So for recording, I use the reactive load pretty much exclusively, except when I use the aux. The aux is sometimes something I will use because I like their software, and the cab sims are cool, and the delay and the compression and everything that's in the aux is really cool. But generally speaking, if I'm just looking for a good raw guitar tone going in the computer, I'm using the reactive load, Sir reactive load, and got it set up right here. I use it all the time, daily, basically. So, and that's also, of course, the Sir reactive load is what's in the PT15. It's exactly the same. The IR loader and the load itself just configured to be in that smaller space in the amplifier. So for a attenuation or live solution like you're talking about, I do recommend the Power Station. It's a really good load. And beyond that, it's got the power amp built in with some simple controls to kind of switch up the tone of the load, right? Which is basically changing the degree of impedance curve that you're getting, not the points of the impedance curve. It's not shifting them, but it's changing how, big of a boost or, the high rise and the low peak of an impedance curve. You can kind of tame that a little bit if you don't want quite as much as what it provides with the switches. It's also got a presence and a depth control, and then an overall volume control. And one big feature that it's got is a loop. So if you want to run effects post your amplifier, if you got a Plexi or something, you can easily add a SD 3000 style delay or something to your sound. So for that, the Power Station is great. And it's $5.99. It's just a cool, I think, right? Isn't it? Now, I've got the older version here. I want to get the newer one that I've heard and I quite like. So what I'm saying is that for recording, the reactive, like long story short, the reactive load is my main choice from Sir. And if I was playing live and wanted to reamp something like a Plexi and control the volume, maybe add some effects, the Power Station. Those are my choices personally. Hope that makes sense. Thanks for your question. Thanks again for doing this ultimate super duper chat thing. Rory says he's up there as well. He says, thanks for making these times a little easier. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Wow, you're too kind. You're in the UK, eh? The UK, eh? Well, missed that place. Seems like just yesterday I was there, and I'll be back when this is all over. See you guys again. Put up a new video this week too for Voodoo Child, which was kind of fun. If you guys haven't seen it, I'll put. I slurped. Sorry. So rude. Here, let me find the link. This was fun. Like Hendrix for me is, I always feel like I want to say traditionally not my forte. And that's just me being honest about the way that I feel about playing in that style. And so it's a challenge for me, and I love Hendrix, but it's like and I feel like I'm getting better at it, which is nice. Like I feel like, and having to sort of be forced into playing, not forced into, but they wanted to play that song on the tour. And so I tackled it, and I just went, you know what? I'm just going to kind of do my own thing, which is what Jimmy did every night anyway. So I tried to get into the spirit of it. I'm just going to find the video here, and then I can post it. Classic rock. I try to get in the spirit of it and kind of do my own thing as much as possible. And this is what happened. And the best part about it was when I would do the song, there, I'm putting in the chat there if anybody cares to take a look. When I would do the song, I would the video would play of Hendrix talking before, and it was so great. And it was like therapy, because he did this spiel that they included in the show that was up on the screen behind me, where he was talking about how he just tries to get into this headspace where all the spirits collect, he said, for about an hour and a half or so. And the interviewer was actually asking him, like, how are the audiences responding to you? Like, what's your crowd like these days as you're growing in popularity and stuff, I think and he said, they're just freaking out, man. It's awesome. But he said, it doesn't require talking. Like, sometimes when an audience is quiet, that's great, because it means they're listening, which is a great perspective. I don't know. It was just it was like therapy. Listen, Hendrix was so wise beyond his years, There he is up there. He's like, yeah, man. But I guess, yeah, just traditionally for me, playing it has been like, I don't know if it's like, I just had to get into the right headspace of like doing my own thing. He was such an improviser and lived in the moment. And maybe that's always traditionally made me, just being honest, like that's the thing that I've had to grow into the most as a guitar player. Learning things note for note, like, the eruption thing or something, or different things I've done over the years. That's when I'm learning other people's music, that's my sort of safety zone. But improv is actually one of the things that came harder for me. That's honestly, so being in that spirit, it's really helping, and I'm still trying to I'm still trying to improve at it. So what else we got going on here, guys? Ben Coombs wants to ask me something. He's sent me a text. He said, already posted the link. Oh, thanks, Ben. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. And what else we got here? My hair's getting longer looking better, says Ben. Each week. Yeah. I got this haircut a while ago, and it was like, there was like a hole cut in it right here, which is a bad place for a dude, right at the temple, to have your haircut shorter right there, because it's going to make it look like if you're losing any hair, like you're losing more than you are. So I'm waiting for that to grow out a little bit, and it's actually happening. So I don't have this like weird. We all get weird haircuts sometimes, I guess, and I'm no exception. That's for sure. Okay, Danielle says, how did you hook up your H9 with the Helix and stereo and 3 analog pedals? I don't get it. Okay, that's on my little board that I've got at home. It's not really that. It's a medium-sized board. The Helix, so there's a buffer bay, Friedman buffer bay. Guitar goes in, comes out of the buffer bay into the Helix. Then on the Helix, there's effects loops, well, there's 4 actually, but you're making me think. Right. So 3 effects loops for the pedals: Keeley GC2, Rocket Archer, and a Starlight Fuzz from Crazy Tube Circuits. And loop 4 on the Helix, I would use for an insert loop for, say, a head. I could use it with a PT15 or a Kemper or whatever I want to do, right? Send and return to pedals, and then also an amps preamp section. Then come back out of loop 4 into the return, and then the main outs of the Helix would then feed inputs in stereo of the H9. The outputs of the H9 then go to whatever you're powering with. So either the return of 2 amplifiers, you can run in mono if you want, just kind of plug one cable, or a power amp, whatever you're using. If I'm using it with the Kemper, my Kemper's powered, so I could just go back into it, or I could have gone out to a Matrix or something like that. So that's the rig, basically. I hope that makes sense. It's as much as my brain can muster on a Sunday morning on limited coffee still. All right. Sorry, guys. I've missed so many questions here. Am I okay? I look tired. I am tired, Kurt. That's from Kurt. For no good reason other than I was binging on Better Call Saul last night. So, and then I had to wake up kind of early to get here. Kind of early. Give me a break. Wasn't early, but I was like literally up binging Better Call Saul till 2:30. And then I finally got to sleep. As we all are these days, right? Kind of binging on shows, etc. Pete, what's your signal path for recording guitar? Wondering if I use 1073s and stuff like that. So basically, out in the other room is, if we're talking about microphones, out in the other room is 2 cabinets. I've got the PT15 signature cabinet and an old Marshall 412 with blackbacks in it, G12M blackbacks, and I've got a 57 and a ribbon mic. So long mic cables, those come back into my room here. And they are hardwired into a BAE dual 1073 microphone preamp right here. And right now, I've got what's called the Steve Stevens mod on that mic pre, because they did it for Steve originally, but it's got a summed output. So both of the outputs on the stereo mic pre feed into the one, and then both those run into input 1 on my Universal Audio Apollo. And when you use the summed output, it drops the level somewhat of the 2 mics when you go to the summed out. I don't know why, but I will use a virtual mic pre in U Audio, mic pre on input 1 and add some more gain to the signal, and that goes straight into Logic. So I'm basically blending the 57 and the ribbon mic to 1073 style pre's. That's what I'm doing mainly these days. Now I've got my API here too. So if I wanted to use the API for a little bit more of that aggressive, fast API thing, I could easily I'd go behind my desk here and just unplug the mics from the 1073 and plug it into the API. That simple. But the API right now is kind of hardwired into this mic. So this is what I use mainly for voiceover and stuff in here. Also, if I need to just record a quick acoustic guitar part, I've just been using this lately, and it's a Lewitt 440, inexpensive microphone, $250 mic. It sounds great. I've got a Mojave microphone that I also, the tube mic, the MA200. It's a little more problematic. I've had some issues with it. There's something wrong with the capsule, and they looked at it, and I don't know why, but they can't seem to find anything wrong with it. And then when I get it in here, sometimes the level drops on it. And I'll pop the body of the microphone with my hand, and it comes back. It's probably a bad tube or something. It's just intermittent. But anyway, so the Mojave sounds great, but I haven't been using it that much. I'll just use this because it's simple and works great for most of what I do. And this is hardwired into the API. For recording loads and things like that, like the reactive load, for example, I'm running it into, I've got another mic pre over here, a Maris 440, and I'm running into that right out of the reactive load, and then taking the output of the Maris straight into another input in UA console. And that's pretty much it. You're either hearing mainly these days the reactive load or the mics with the 1073s. I can also hook up my aux. I've moved it because I've got the Jose head over there right now, but I'll put the aux back eventually. And the aux runs digital into the digital input of my UA. So it's got a Toslink style. So that'll be, right out of the amps or whatever into the aux if I'm using it. Toslink digital into Logic. So those are the main ways that I do it. It's Slovenia in the house here. Joe, what's up, man? And I am so far behind that I better move it down here and see what else we got here. Dunable or Dunable, somebody's mentioning Sasha Dunable, that pedal that I did a review of this week. Check out that one if you so desire. It's a great pedal. Delay and reverb in one. The neat thing about that pedal, Dunable one that I just put in the video for this week, is well, first of all, the simplicity of it is great. It's so easy, which I like. I like simple these days. I really do. But the mod sounds great on the delay. It's got this great kind of, it sounds like electric mistress, sort of like Andy Summers style chorusing, but it's flange. You know what I mean? That's what the mod sounds like on it to me. I don't know. It's not like I directly A-B'd it to a mistress or something, but it's just got this really pleasant sounding mod on the delay. It's super nice. So Mark says that my version of Voodoo Child was awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. So much fun playing that this week. Oh, I got to give some props to Tony Cornell. If nobody saw Tony's version, she's got it on her Instagram right now. Tony's, of course, Chris Cornell's daughter, and she did a version of Hunger Strike. So they asked her to be a part of the Global Citizen thing, and make this video. And everybody from all over the world's been sending these videos in. And I don't know if you guys have been watching, but it's streaming all weekend and stuff. And so she recorded a couple songs, which I helped her. I helped her get set up a little while ago with a interface, UA Apollo Twin, and a mic and Logic, and installed it all for her and stuff like that, and showed her how to get it all going and stuff, and just went go, and she's 15, right? And she recorded just her guitar direct in and a vocal the other day and sent it to me, and I put together a little video for her, just edited it, and I did a little mix on it. I didn't do anything. I mean, her vocal is untouched. It's just like a little bit of EQ and compression, put it together with the video and sent it to her. And she, it's scary, right? Like putting your stuff out there, and she's singing one of her dad's songs, and it's like she was, she's a perfectionist and wise beyond her years, like really old soul kind of, and she didn't know if she wanted it to come out. And ultimately, she decided to put it out, and it's just been nothing but positive. If you guys haven't seen it, go to her Instagram and check it out. It's really beautiful and moving. And anyway, so props to her for doing that this week. She's 15 and exceptional, it's just like blows my mind. So just so good. So it made me really, really, really proud this week. So that was another thing that happened this week. That lots of positive stuff this week. The Steve Vai interview, that Hendrix video coming out for me, and I was actually really proud of it and happy with it. So it's been a nice week for me through all this craziness, honestly. Somebody's in the house from Edmonton here. It's Jerome. What's up, man? How you doing? Okay, moving down in the chat. Let's see. Wondering what you watch when you watch other top-level guitarists. Is it technique, feel, gear, everything? I'm just a geek like you guys. I mean, I was like, I want to know what they're using, and then I just want to be... Sometimes, when I watch somebody like Landau, the magic for me with watching somebody like that, or many guitar players really, but is the wonder that I still feel when I watch somebody doing something that I don't understand. And I don't care. I just get taken away by the music. And then I start thinking, God, I wish I could do that. Or how did they do that? And then you just go like, I don't know. It's the same thing that we all got jazzed about with the guitar when we were like kids, right? And I still feel it. And I'm still so excited about the guitar. I saw Billy Sheehan the other day because I was going through some videos on YouTube, and Billy was doing a clinic, and he was talking about, it was from maybe 2014 or 15. He was doing a bass clinic and talking about some of the things he's working on and techniques and things like that. And he mentioned that he's still so excited about playing the bass, and that hasn't gone away. And he's like, that's so awesome. And that he feels that way. He really appreciates the fact that, because, it's kind of an intangible, like, are you still going to be excited about it? And he's still excited about it. And he's just like thankful for that. And I feel the same way. So it's just basically as exciting as it ever was. And now we just have so much to watch and look at, and so many different places to get the inspiration from, right? That's nice. Can I talk about ways to stay relaxed while trying to play fast, says Ethan. It's like a Zen thing, man. It's what the closest... I became I don't play golf anymore, and I'll pick it up again one of these days. When I was a kid, I used to golf a lot. My dad was a golfer. My mom was a pretty good golfer. My grandfather was an exceptional golfer. Like really badass tournament, amateur tournament winner kind of guy. And I'll always remember my granddad. I'll tell you a quick story and I'll relate it to the guitar. I always remember my granddad like going golfing somewhere. It was in Jasper, Banff, up in the mountains in Canada, Jasper probably. And there was what's called a dog leg right, where the fairway goes down and then turns a corner and goes around. There's trees. So, like this is the tee, the green's over here, and you'd have to hit the ball this way, generally speaking. And then the fairway would curve, and then the green, and then this is all trees over here. Right. And my granddad, who wasn't even golfing that day, 'cause he's pretty old by this point, But I remember getting to the tee and him just saying, all right, let me show you how to do this. And he got out of the cart, and from here, he hit the ball over the trees, and it landed like right on the green or in front of the green over there. Well, everybody else kind of went this way and this way, right? And he's just so like relaxed about it. Not freaking out. Like, he was just so, his swing was beautiful, and he had power and grace, and kind of like just, I don't know, he was so controlled. And playing fast on the guitar is really similar to that to me. When I picked up the guitar, I became a better golfer. It was weird. I used to go to the driving range, and it was like this is when I'm a teenager, but I'd go hit balls, and I'd realize, like, if I apply the same kind of mentality that I do to learning fast guitar licks, where you got to play lighter and more controlled the faster you get, and the more intense it gets. If I kind of applied that to my golf swing, like that sort of zen, it's like playing a game against yourself. That's what golf is. It's really, you're playing against yourself. Your own mind it's not really, does that make sense? So golf for me was always that. Like you're in a little tug of war with your own mind to stay relaxed and get in the zone and just let it flow. Like it's like using the force, man. And playing guitar and playing fast is kind of like that, where you have to, like, the quicker you go, you lighten up. There's a good article I read a while ago. He said when he was listening to recordings of him playing it back, it was almost like he was playing it too fast, like too rushed, he wanted to tackle it was a technically hard thing, but it's almost like the anticipation of coming to that fast lick, and he would tense up, and then it would almost sound like he was rushing through it, and he realized he didn't have to do that. It was like more, I don't know, it's this weird, this intangible. So I do notice this thing. You'll notice this week when I'll put out this Amps in the Zone Vai video, and I'm doing something on there. I'm playing a couple of Vai licks in there, and one of them is incredibly fast. And so I had to tackle that the other day, and I couldn't do it when I first sat down to do it. I've known it since I was a kid, because I'd learned the song back in the 80s, but it's technically really difficult, and I had to practice it hard the other day. And I thought, I wonder if I'm going to be able to do this today. And then I just put it on, loop it, and I put it in with the tempo and Logic and stuff like that, and then looped it and started building the speed up slowly. And it was weird. Over the course of like 30 minutes of playing it or something, I totally worked it up to tempo. And it was just through repetition. It's an amazing thing. And Steve talks about it in the interview that we did this week, and it came out on Monday, where he said for him the magic was that he couldn't believe it when he was learning to play guitar and then getting better and better, that he could just work on this thing and he couldn't do it, and then magically he could do it. It just came all of a sudden after working on it, right? And that was part of what blew his mind. And I could totally relate when he said that. I was like, oh my God, it is amazing. Like, I remember being a kid and getting it and going, look at what my fingers are doing. And like when it's clean, and like it's not clean, and then you slow down and you really work through something, and then you just practice, and if you do it with discipline and with a metronome and stuff like that, all of a sudden you can do it. It's like, oh my God, there it is. And it's like, and your fingers are just doing this thing that they couldn't before. And that's how you there's no substitute for the work, maybe. And there's something about like just relaxing, playing it at a speed that you can do it at, and then the speed will come. So speed for me is like, speed will come. That's not a problem. Like when you think about like just talking, right? Like language and how difficult it was at one point, or if you learn a foreign language, how difficult it is. And then all of a sudden you find yourself being able to say phrases that you wouldn't have known what they meant a couple of years ago, but all of a sudden they come to you, like they're starting to come to you faster, and then you say them without thinking so much. And that's just how our brains work, and it is like magic. But speed is the same way on the guitar. There was this thing when I got to MI called Mega Slow, Mega Slow, I think is what they call it. It was the original course they developed. And it was all about like only playing things at the tempo that you could play them controlled. And then the speed comes after that. You have to train your brain to, it's like driving this is the best way I can describe it. It's like driving your car to a new place. A new restaurant in town. It's all the way across town, but you really want to try and get there. Well, what would happen if you just put your foot down and tried to drive as fast without thinking, to a restaurant that you already knew where it was, right? You know what I mean? You couldn't do that. You'd be like, oh, I missed this turn. Oh, back up, go back, go down this street. Oh no, I missed the, no. You got to go slow and follow the navigation or somebody's directions or whatever. And you might have to do that 2 or 3 times before you remember and it gets in your brain as to where that new location is that you're driving to, right? Learning a guitar lick is the same thing to me. And after a while, you don't think about it anymore when you're driving to that new place. You just do it, and you can do it, if you're a good driver, relatively quickly. And you're not thinking about the lane changes. You're not thinking about checking you just do it. It's like with any skill, you just do it after a while. But in the beginning, you had to go slow. I don't know how else to describe it. Guitar licks are like that for me. Go slow, do it over and over, work on the difficult technical points and stuff like that. Figure out where maybe where you're crossing strings and the pick's at a weird place or whatever. Work out that little thing, work on the little details, and then it just comes all of a sudden. Just trust in the process that it's going to happen if you're disciplined and diligent, and if you don't try and rush and keep crashing the car like you would if you were going too fast to a new location where you didn't, All right, that was a tear I went on. I hope that made sense. Yeah, and just relax. Like, the quicker I play, I always say, with the pick, less motion. Efficient motion is important. Not picking your fingers up too high off the fingerboard, not flailing around, and also lightening up and just using the very tip of the pick. The quicker that you try and go, the very tip of the pick and less right hand motion is important. All right. Okay. In the new guitar world, Michael says, Satch says that the new Fender amps sound great, including 68 reissue. Are you happy as is, or will you mod yours? Yeah, I have a 68 reissue basic run-of-the-mill Princeton here. Sounds great. I don't have any interest in messing with it. So it's fine. I'm going to leave it as is. It does sound really good. There's things you can do to them, I think. Like some people will, it's got a Slushin 1030 speaker in it or something. Some people might want to change that out because they might like, more of a Jensen thing or whatever. Little mods you can do and things like that. My friend Jamie Kimes is an amazing guitar player. I know he's got a deluxe reverb he's always tweaking, but he knows way more about electronics than I do. It's a modern deluxe that he goes in and changes things and tries to, kind of optimize it. But for the most part, I think the amps sound terrific. I would agree the modern ones sound really, really pretty darn good, and they're nice. I mean, I've only got one. I've got this little Princeton here. It's a good little combo amp for sure. Okay. I'm going to go way down the bottom of the chat here, and if I missed your question, which I missed 98% of the questions, please ask again. Just type it again. The aux box is on the floor. It is. It's on the floor right there because I had to move it because I had to put Vai's amp somewhere. It's over here. So the aux will go back in its rightful position pretty soon. That's what I meant to say. Yeah. Speed. Try the Adam Neely sock practice trick. What's that? Can you explain? That's from Trolls Journ something or other. If you can explain what Adam's trick is. Adam's a brilliant guy. I'd like to know what that is. You have to put the work in, says Tor. There's no other way. I've been playing piano for 10 months. Oh, that's awesome. I want to learn how to play piano one of these days. And today I was able to turn a page of music without missing a beat. That's cool. Little milestones, right? It's cool. Somebody says Max is like AB video between the old and new clean channel, the PT15. It's not really an old and new clean channel. There's just been one little running change made to the it's one cap, so it's the same channel. It just opens up the sound a little bit. That's all. So, and it's so some people are like, it sounds great as is, and I'm like, yeah, it is. It's nothing wrong. It's not something wrong with the amplifier. It was just a little like different thing that I actually liked, and it's like I'd be, truth be told, very happy either way. But one of the nice things about it is you can put the tone controls on. Like right now, I'm just looking at mine. I'm running the treble on about 5.5 or 6, and the bass on 4 with the bright on. Before I might have had the treble up around 7 or 8 on the clean channel. So it just makes it so. I don't know about you guys, but I love it when you can put all the knobs on 5 and it sounds good. That's always my goal. Kind of, if you're going to make a new product, it's nice if if you don't have to have extreme settings of things. So, yeah. Hey Pete, regular or heritage greenbacks with a Marshall? Good question. Generally speaking, I like the regular greenback. The Heritage does sound good. I do have Heritage greenbacks in one 412 cabinet. I've got an EVH 412 that actually has the Heritage greens. You know what they do sound really good with to me is a Plexi, a loud Plexi, because they noticeably reduce the volume of a loud amp. They're 96 dB efficiency as opposed to a greenback, which is 98, I think. And a V30 is like 99, I think. Hope I'm getting that right. Some selections are 100. So the difference between an efficiency of 99 or 100 dB and 96 is really noticeable in volume. So the Heritage greenbacks have this softer kind of sound to them that works really nicely with an old loud amp. It's like a built-in attenuation into the speaker of a couple dB. It's really cool. Yeah. But generally speaking, having said that, I use in all my amps, I use the, like, we have some cabinets that have greenbacks. The PT15 cabinet has greenback in it mixed with a V30. And it's, just the standard one. I like those. Steven says, golf is a Scottish thing. It's in your genes. Well, that was definitely my grandfather's name was Warren Scott. He's a great guy. Your take on the Sir Koji comp versus Wampler Ego. I've never directly A-B'd them, but I would say that the Koji comp has this sort of almost like expensive sound to it that's really cool. It's got a very smooth sound. So the release is kind of long in it too. And it's got a very smooth sound to the tail, and it sounds like a studio compressor or something almost. And I like on the Koji comp, the high boost switch is nice too. You can kind of mess with that. It's cool. The Ego, it's maybe a bit more traditional guitar pedal compressor sounding, but I really like it too. It sounds really good. And it's got actually a high frequency boost on it too. It just sounds a little bit more like a, I don't know what it's based on, if anything, but it's got its own, it's maybe a bit more like a regular, like a Keeley meets Dynacomp or something sound. Whereas the Koji has this certain kind of sound to it to me that almost sounds like more like a DBX or something. That's like, I don't know. I'd probably hook them all up and go, you know what? These all sound unique. But if I compared a DBX to a Koji, I don't know if I would feel that way, but that's what I'm coming up with off the top of my head. Just a little bit more, I would say, smooth studio compression versus guitar pedal compressor, like a little more. The Ego's not lo-fi or anything, but it's got its own thing. So, okay. What else we got here? Have I ventured into other DAWs? I haven't. I've been a Logic guy forever, but I am going to try the Luna. I got to do a little bit of computer upgrade, like, software upgrading and stuff to the latest operating system and stuff before I can use Luna, I think. But that's the new UA that's got built-in Neve summing and all this stuff. And I do want to really try it. So you reminded me, actually, if I do a little bit of work around here today, I got a format. They use some weird format for their, well, it's not weird, but it's some new Apple format that's like a newish thing where it's not OS extended journaled or whatever is the standard, they've been using forever. So you got to have an SSD drive formatted with this new Apple format for their samples and stuff. So I'm going to do that. And then I'll try Luna after that, I think. But it does look really cool and I want to give it a go. I'm reluctant to learn like a new DAW because it's just like one of those things that I barely know how to use Logic. I feel like I know how to use it just enough to do what I do. But, I watched some videos on the Luna thing and it does sound really cool and it looks cool. And it kind of sucked me in and I went, all right, I got to get into this. Check it out. But that's the only other one. I've never tried Cubase. The Pro Tools a little bit when I've, been in studios and stuff. Everybody uses Pro Tools. So it's like, but I don't really know how to use it very well. I can run it, but I'm a hack. Any suggestions when auditioning hundreds of IRs? My ear can't handle the amount of options in some of these packs. That's from Philip. I know, man. It's kind of crazy. One of the nice things about Celestion is that, you don't have so many. And when I consulted with them before they put them out, I commended them on the fact that they were only going to have, like, they were balanced, dark 2, bright, thin, and fat options for each microphone. That's it. That's what they give you. And then they make some nice mixes and they give you those, but not like a ton. There's a low gain all mic mix, high gain all mic mix, and then they do because there's 3 mics in every package, so they'll do any two. And then so here's my recommendation for Celestion, for instance. Just try the high gain all mic mix of any of the speakers and cabs. Go to that one first, and if you like the basic color of that, then and you might just go, well, that is the one I want to use. Like to be honest, most of the time I'm lazy and I'll just use that. Their high gain all mic mix. Somebody outside my door here. There, double door in action. Anyways, yeah, high gain all mic mix of any of the Celestion IRs. Now, okay, if you're using Ownhammer, they give you some mixes too, and they give you a quick start folder generally, I think. So you could probably go there. With the Ownhammers, I think with each mic position or each microphone, they're positioned from number 1 to 10 or 0 through 10 or 9 or something. So there's 10 different positions, and they get darker from 0 or 1 to 10. I can't remember 0 or 1 that they start at, 0 or 1. So go to number 5 or number 6 on any of the individual Ownhammer mics and listen to that. That's their median setting, you know, and that should give you an indication of whether or not you like that particular speaker or cabinet or whatever. That's my recommendation. Start there. Okay. Let's see. Golf and guitar are similar, says Eddie. One day you think you got it all figured out, and then the next day it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, I can appreciate that for sure. One day you're doing great, the next day you're breaking your club or throwing it into the tree. No, hopefully not. Yeah. Lawrence says he wants to hang someday at the driving range with me. I'd be scared, dude. I don't know if I can hit a ball anymore. It's been a minute. I'd like to start again one of these days. Jason says he's been to Jasper and Banff. Awesome scenery. Yeah, some of the most beautiful places in the world, aren't they? I grew up, 4 hours from Jasper and 5 hours from Banff, really, and it's like drive. And I knew it then, but I appreciate it even more now, like how gorgeous those places are. It looks like Switzerland, it's incredible. When you use the vintage digital on your Boss DD500, do you add any modulation on the repeats? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I do. It's funny, like Ty Tabor kind of changed my mind about mod on solos. I've been using no mod on solo delays for a while now, and then he, like, in his interview that I did with him recently, said that he used to use tons of mod on his solo sound. And I was like, huh. But he'd do it on a short delay. He'd do an 18 or 20 millisecond delay and then mod, use modulation, like mod the hell out of it, he said. And then that made it so that when you bend a string and do vibrato, it kind of fights against the bend and make it sound extra crazy. And I was like, you got me thinking. It's great guitar. It's never ending. What else we got here? I'm gonna move down in the chat. JJ Strat fan here says, loved your Steve Vai interview. Thank you. Made It School lended him the audience's listening video, and it blew my mind. Yeah, Steve is crazy, man. He's so ahead of his time and awesome. Or maybe he just came right at the right time. But really amazing. Okay. Sorry, I'm back again. Back kind of far here. Ever hear Al Petrelli's lead on Alice Cooper's song Poison, playing his Black Kramer Night Swan? Yeah, I can hear it in my head right now, I think. It was probably like his biggest hit of the era, I think, right? Remember that. I forgot that it was Al Petrelli, though. Remember that guy. I wonder what he's doing right now. Okay, moving down. Have I heard Mike Landau on Helen Watson's Blue Slipper album? He's on the title track. It's sublime. I bet it is. That's Paul. I playing on Joni Mitchell, Turbulent Indigo or something. That's probably some of my first exposure to him in the early 90s. And it was this gorgeous ambient guitar, he's amazing, man. So musical. He's the one guy that everybody fanboys over, it's like, no, it doesn't matter who you are, it's like big guitar players, producers go see him and just bow down to the king. Yep. Let's see here. Favorite songs by The Who. I like The Seeker and Eminence Front. Those are two. That's SD Design. I can't argue with that. Love The Seeker. Those chords at the beginning. It's rock and roll, man. It's so cool. And I love Eminence Front. It's a song about cocaine. That's what he says. Great. Fantastic. Well, let me think of a couple others. 515. Always one of my favorites. The Real Me. I mean, it's such a unique, like, the whole song's a bass solo, and yet it's incredible. It's so unique. Doesn't sound like any other band, does it? Real Me. Love that stuff. Okay. Paul says, me and Yogi should be in a band together again. Yogi spends a lot of time overseas these days. Croatia. His wife is from Croatia, so I don't get to see him that much, but a couple times a year, he still comes back to LA, and stuff. So I don't see him that much, but I miss him, my old buddy. He's one of those guys I get together with, and it's like no time passed. The jokes and stuff just start, the conversation and the type of conversation we have just goes into the same old, and it feels like, oh yeah, we're on the tour bus again. Max keeps asking about an A/B video between the new and old. One thing, Max, is that I don't want people to get the idea that there is a new clean channel on the PT15, because it's not a new channel. It's really just a very simple running change. So it's one cap. And it's important that I think we, just to be clear about that it's just a minor tweak, so I don't know that there's much to show, to be honest, but I'd have to go in and actually do anyway. How many beers can I drink before I start losing time with a metronome? That reminds me of my guitar buddy Yoshi Nagabuchi. When I got to Japan, I remember him saying to me, "So how many bottles of wine do you think you could drink?" Which I always loved. It was like, maybe the first or second time I'd met the guy, and he asked me that. It was like, oh, I see where this is going to go on tour. He's a great guy. What a great guitar player. I don't know how many. It's 4 for me, he says tour. For me, 1 alcoholic beverage before a gig, and this is just for me personally, some people don't drink at all, and God bless them, whatever works for you, but everything in moderation. I mean, for me, 1 before a gig is a really, really good thing, actually. 1 glass of wine is generally good, because it just makes me think a little less, a little bit out of my head, and a little bit more into just playing what comes, letting the music flow. I don't know how else to describe it. That's just me. I don't recommend it or condone it. Whatever works. That doesn't work for a lot of people, that's for sure. So how did the Boss 2-back amp expander work out? Didn't like it, says Max. No, I have it. Okay, somebody's Saved by the Bell. I'm going to go up to the top chat and answer a question that's up there, and then I'll be right back with you. Word phrase association, says Alex B. Thanks, Alex, for doing the top chat thing. What first comes to mind when you think of these guitarists? Clapton, legend, innovator, control, like grace in his playing, even under a loud rock context. Wasn't wild, was he? it was this beauty and control in his playing, and his vibrato is gorgeous. This vibrato, the shaking vibrato, as opposed to that vibrato that I can't do unless I had a neck. This thing is incredible. Mayer, when I think of him as a guitarist, I think he's fantastic. Specifically as a guitarist, I think of John Mayer in so many other ways than as a guitar player, to be honest. Like as a songwriter and a singer and a brilliant. Actually, he's pretty visionary with his own career, which is maybe the biggest thing that I take away from him is his. I know you word phrase you wanted what first comes to mind, but I kind of can't separate. I can't break it down into just one word. Like it's sort of brilliant, really, but and then I have to explain what that means, I think. So what I think it means is that he came out with his early records, was really like singer-songwriter records. He was playing a lot of acoustic guitar and singing, and writing these great kind of pop songs, really, right? And establishing himself. Well, all the while, none of us knew. It's hard to remember a time when you didn't see him with a Strat or a Silver Sky or something, right? But primarily, for the first couple of years, it was a Martin acoustic guitar that you would see him with. Established himself as a big, giant pop singer-songwriter guy. And then, he's pretty badass on electric guitar, isn't he? So he knew all the time that he was pretty badass on electric guitar, but he chose to go the singer-songwriter route at the beginning, which I have to believe was intentional, to blow his career wide open and get himself to a place where he could do whatever the hell he wanted to do. So then fast forward all these years later, he did a blues trio record, and I'm repeating a story, or an opinion about something he did. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating it, but people have heard it before. But if you watch the show where he's at the I think it's Staples Center or something, and he's playing in LA, and he's doing the blues trio concert that came out, and there's 18,000 people there, and it's like primarily it's probably 60% girls, and everybody's pretty young, like most people under the age of 30, and he's playing blues, right? So he had to do and I think he can do many things well, and he went, well, I'm going to go do this thing, the singer-songwriter thing, establish myself and get myself to wherever I can. Let's get myself to the place where I can do whatever I want, is what I'm trying to say. Which requires, establishing, over a few records, a number of hits, getting to that place where you can have that, you can do no wrong. You can have the say over your career, and, it's pretty brilliant, really. So all that, I kind of can't separate my thoughts about him without mentioning that, because it was so smart. Bonamassa. Bonamassa is like I think of him as his playing is pretty impeccable technically, isn't he? He loves the guitar. That's clear. He is almost like a historian, I think, at this point, with his, he's like a curator almost at this point. Another guy that's also kept blues at the forefront, done it in his own way. It was much like Mayer, actually brilliant on his path. Hard to deny that he's self-made. Him and whoever his manager is, brilliant to get to the point where you're kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Self-contained operation, and yet playing the Beacon or whatever, playing Albert Hall, playing without the help of the traditional music business. Really brilliant, and he just loves guitar and really appreciates it. George Lynch, great guy, funny as hell. I saw him a little while ago, and I mentioned he was getting a Park amp worked on by Friedman, and or maybe a Marshall or something. And I said, God, we're crazy to still do, I said, still doing all this stuff. What, just from the perspective of here he is. And for all these years, he was really excited about it. Man, the amp sounds amazing. And I said, we're also nuts, right? We get so excited about tone and stuff. And he was like, it's fun. It's just fun. I love it. You know, and it's that same thing about like, I was saying about Billy Sheehan. He's still jazzed, you know, by the whole thing. So there's something about George where his spirit's really great. I love his Instagram, by the way. He's really funny on Instagram. He's got a kind of a dry sense of humor, and I don't know. He's a unique guy, and what a style. If you haven't seen the video of him playing in the studio, it's an instructional video that he came out with. If you look for George Lynch instructional video or something, he's playing in a studio, and I think he's playing an ESP with the Tiger Stripes, and it's his playing on that is ferocious, man. On that video, Hendrix, soul, spirit. What do you say? I mean, channeling. Just it's the most beautiful thing about Hendrix was his ability to fearlessly just be in the moment of wherever, you know, and just get into that vibe, which doesn't, maybe he was sometimes in a bad mood or not feeling it, and then it wouldn't have been his greatest performance. But when he was in the zone, he was in the zone. He would never, you can't imagine that guy faking it, right? I mean, there was no bullshit, you know, just tapped in the zone. Hendrix in the zone, you know, and EVH blew the doors wide open for the future of, you know, but changed people's mind like Hendrix. I always say the two guys were Hendrix and EVH that changed people's mind of what was possible on the guitar. Lots of great guitar players, lots of innovators. Out of all the people, I mean, those are the two guys that changed people's perspective on how far the instrument could be taken. I don't think Clapton changed people's minds on how far the instrument could be taken. Do you know what I mean? As great as he is, I know he was EVH's biggest influence. Maybe he did for Eddie. Maybe it's just because I came later. And it's not a diss on Clapton because he was incredible. I'd say the same about David Gilmore, and he's one of my favorite guitar players of all time. Jeff Beck pretty up there with maybe changing a little more on a subtle, slow burn kind of way, and he keeps improving. You know, it's incredible. But Hendrix, Beck, EVH, you know, in a rock guitar context, you know, obviously there's other folks when we get out of the genre. But somebody was asking about the tube amp emulator. Tube amp emulator, you know, it's a really good product. I'm great pals with the folks at Boss and stuff like that. I thought that I don't want to, you know, what do I say? Here's the thing. There was a few things about it that just made me go, and that has no bearing on whether or not it's good or not. Like my deal with reviewing gear and stuff like that and doing videos on my channel is always, I do it when I feel it 100%. If I'm super stoked, then that's when I, you know, to make a review. And if I'm not feeling it 100% right, it's like, I don't know if I get this or this feature or that feature, I'll pass. So that's what you see me do. You're asking me to specifically nail those things down with the tube amp emulator. I don't know that I really want to do that because that's not my MO, right? I'm just telling you that for that particular type of product, we're talking load boxes here. You got to keep in mind that I was a part of the development of the Sir Reactive load. I was a part of prototypes, sound testing, listening, and I, more than a lot of products, have a technical understanding of what's going on with the load boxes and stuff. So, I have to tread carefully when I talk about this stuff because I am very, very, very picky when it comes to the subject of loads, and I get kind of passionate about it. You know, but when it comes to the subject of these reactive versus resistive load boxes and why I believe, you know, I have one in my amp and it's one of the only amps on the market that has one. So it gets into this weird zone. I think there's a whole lot of great ones out there, like really good. And then I think there's one that is 15% beyond everything else that's available. And that's the Sir. That's my honest assessment. It's more expensive to make. There's more parts in it. And it truly, if you look at the graph of a impedance curve of a 412 loaded with greenbacks, they mirror one another if you lay the plots on top of one another. Not everyone's load box does that. And what that results in is the amplifier sounding slightly different and reacting in a slightly different way than it would with that particular cabinet. So that's my take on it. It's a long answer, but you're talking about the health of your amplifier also. You're talking about your amp. Your amp wants to see a speaker, right? That's what it's designed to be plugged into. And when you're talking about your old Marshall or your old AC30 or something, I feel most comfortable plugging my old amp. You know, it used to be the things like power soaks and all these different, you know, people would say, oh, you know, and you know, older guys are like, those boxes, you know, plugging your amp into one of those, you might fry your amp and stuff. It's true. If you're the thing with a load box, most people are going to plug it in, they're going to crank the amp up, and they're listening on headphones or whatever, and you're forgetting that they're taxing the amplifier in a way that the volume would remind you if you had it plugged into a cabinet that you're cooking your tubes right now. And you know, you listen to any, I mean, the Jose Marshall here I have plugged into the reactive load, and the load box when that Jose Marshall's plugged in and cooking is getting hot and the fan's blowing and it's making heat and it's working, the amp's working, the load box is working. It does that thing where it's buzzing away because it's cranked. It's 100 watts going into that load. You wouldn't you want for sure the best one, right? So that's where I just, and I'm not saying anybody else's, this is just my opinion, but I have to tread lightly when it comes to this stuff because I do have more of a technical understanding of what's going on because of John's education with me and stuff with these load boxes than say even guitar amplifiers. So I'm careful about it. That's all. That's all I'm going to say about it. You know, it's a bit of a delicate subject, and I just, you know, there's more to it than sound. You know, so sound is important, but the health of your amp, and also, and I'm not saying any other one's going to affect the health of your amplifier. You know, some of this stuff is just theoretical too. I just feel safest plugging mine into the one that responds exactly like the speaker cabinet, if that makes sense. Jay Frockon says, your demo for the aux made me decide to get one. Love it for recording and live in a hard rock band. It's a great unit too. I mean, the aux is terrific. And, you know that there's a lot of these boxes out there that respond as far as the load goes in a very similar way. The aux, the two notes, very similar when it comes to the load. It's a good load. You know, it's good. Music Therapy Laz is up in the top chat. Thank you for doing the super chat thing, guys. Appreciate that. And he says, newer vintage gear discovery. Fun. I agree. Like the 60s Telray organ tone device I discovered. What's that? Tell us about that. I agree. New and vintage gear discovery is fun. I mean, that's kind of my whole MO, I guess, on the social medias. What's the Telray organ thing? I want to know about that. Peter is in the, he's in Canada and he's up there in the super chat. Cheers from Edmonton. He's in Edmonton. Thanks for the show. Wondering if you would do a shootout for my 50th birthday fundraiser I'm doing for Matt Schofield and band. Their tour has been caught badly by COVID. Wondering if you would do a a shout out, not a shootout. Sorry. Is it, I see. You're doing a 50th birthday fundraiser for Matt and band. So Matt's turning 50. Is that what the deal is? What can I do to help? Maybe send me an email or something. Maybe I could say something on my IG or Facebook or something. That'd be probably the most effective way to do it, or reach the most people, I would think. There's a contact form on my website if you want to send me an email. Grab your guitar and play the Seeker. I don't know if I remember. Is the Seeker in A? I think it is. I don't know if I remember off the top of my head exactly how the intro goes. Laurel says, you mentioned getting a Luna. I'm a UA junkie. Forgive me if you told us before, but do you have some favorite go-to plugins? That's for UA stuff. Here, let's listen to this. Oh no, I can't play the Seeker. It's going to screw up my stream. I was going to go play it and then play the song, but I'm just not going to do it because I don't have a guitar plugged in right now. I've been telling myself for ages now that I got to get a guitar setup going here, because I know some of these guys that got a guitar plugged into the whole thing when they're live streaming, but I'll decline this week. Next week. Moving down in the chat, Ben says that he texted me a couple of missed super chats. Okay, let me take a look. He did indeed. Most eureka moment in your guitar learning path. That's from Hexa Voyager. Oh. Most eureka moment. In the year that I spent at MI, there was a number of things that I've relayed the stories before, so I don't want to get to, but it was basically things that were more about like less working on precision things that I did a lot when I was a kid, and more working on performing and getting into the spirit of the moment, and how rocking out and not being so perfect is part of rock and roll guitar playing. So I would have to say it was that year at MI. There were a couple key things that happened where it was like, sort of and trial under fire kind of stuff, like on stage kind of stuff that I learned that year. So there was a number of them that year at MI, but I would say it was that year at MI with a few specific things that happened that taught me that it's important to be kind of what I was talking about with Hendrix, or like get into the moment. And I'm still doing that. I mean, I was mentioning with the Hendrix video that came out this week, or it's me playing Hendrix song, but like living in that moment, and then like playing with Melissa Etheridge, for instance, was because she's a big improv person, likes you to take extended solos, and she likes taking chances and not every night being the same and that kind of thing. So like things like that, like prepared me for her gig, like the year at MI, and thinking more in an improv, get into the moment sort of flow. I don't know how else to describe it, but so that's one. Somebody else is up in the super chat here. So it's Edward. He says, what type of delays do you like to use on the DD500? Mainly it's probably I would say the tape or the vintage digital, I think it's called. SDE 3000 one that's in there. That's the one I mainly use. Those are my favorites. Thanks guys for doing the super chat thing. Derek says, what happens to the pedals after your reviews? Well, it depends. Sometimes I keep them, sometimes they go back. It depends on the manufacturer and the particular situation. So many of them I keep. That is true. And some go back. It just depends. Rockabilly 12 says, Pete, have you tried the Thornbuckers in a semi-hollow body? Okay, have I no, I haven't installed them myself in a 335 style guitar, but many people have. There's a lot of people on the gear page and stuff that I've talked to, and people seem to really dig them. I have a good idea of what they're going to sound like in a guitar like that. I just haven't. I own two. I've got my old 335 and I've got my DG 335 that you see right there. Wouldn't mind trying to put them in that guitar, but truth be told, that guitar just has the original pickups in it, which are burst buckers, and they sound good. I don't need to change things all the time if something's working, just because I have my own pickup or something, and it is nice to have guitars with other things in it sometimes, even though I have a signature product, it's like, the pickups go in all my signature guitars that I have, and I have them in various Sur Strats and things like that, but I still have guitars sometimes with, like, I've got in my modern, I've got the Doug Aldrich pickups for variety, because you don't want the exact same thing in everything. But anyways, that guitar still got the burst buckers in it for that reason, which I think the ones in there are like an Almaco 2 PAF style. That guitar sounds great. It's fine. Not gonna play with it. I used to change things just to change things. And then, you realize when you get older that you don't have time for all that. It's like somebody was asking about the Fender amps, the Princeton. Are you going to mod it? No. I've got my little silver face Princeton here. I don't want to change the speaker or do it. It sounds good. Plugged it in and worked, so I'm cool. Cool on all that. Thanks, Ben, for sending me the text with the, I think that's all the ones you sent me. super chat questions. Oh, somebody else is up there, I think. Last question. It's Alex. He says, he's in the super chat. He says, using an amp modeler at home and want more excitement. Does it feel better to use IRs and full range and a power amp and guitar cab or a real amp? You want to like turn it more into that amp feel, which, okay, so part of an amp in a room is it's the feel of the guitar amp, you know, reflecting off the walls and things like that. You know, that certain, it's not just the speaker you're hearing or so one of the things that people have problems sometimes playing with IRs. I mean, I've gotten very comfortable with hearing guitars through studio monitors, through impulse responses or mics or whatever it may be. But the feel of the amp in the room for somebody like, say, Sir, you know, he's used to hearing an amp through a cabinet. That's his reference point. Still is. He doesn't really like hearing guitar through monitors and things like that, I don't think. So it's all about what kind of player you are and what you're used to, I think. So trying to make a modeler more exciting. I mean, I have to say that one of the things that is probably the most effective for me would be, if I was that type of person, would be using that Celestion speaker in the cat. You guys have seen it, I think. Like I loaded the F12 X200, it's called, just their coaxial driver. It looks like a guitar speaker. It was made to feel like it's a full range driver that's made to feel and respond like a guitar speaker, and you can put it in any old 112. Maybe something like that for at home in a cabinet like I have it here. If you're missing the excitement, and you know, through headphones or studio monitors or full range and all that stuff, something like that speaker might be more. That's my gut instinct, Alex, is that it's an inexpensive solution compared to many of them out there. Just grab one of those speakers, throw it in an open back 112 and plug it in with any old power amp and see what happens. It's like, oh yeah, that's the experience I'm used to. It's like a cabinet in a room as opposed to, one of the things they did with that speaker is cool is it's real thin paper and stuff like a guitar speaker. It's not like they explained to me that PA speakers or monitors, full range cabinets are generally meant to be really robust with like 500 watts of power handling and really stiff. The speakers are in PA cabs are built a certain way. But then you play a guitar tone through it, and it sounds like guitar coming through a PA monitor, not like a guitar cabinet in a room, even though you're using an IR of a guitar cabinet. So they've tried to bridge that gap. I was like, how successful is this going to be? And my first instinct when I plugged it in, I loaded it in the cabinet. It's not any specific cabinet. It's a nice cabinet, an oval open back 112 I have. I loaded it in, plugged it in, turned it up, and went, oh, yeah, that first 15 seconds thing where you plug something in and you kind of know without like, oh, let me get into the EQ and, tweak. And maybe if I do this, it'll sound, yeah, it's kind of cool. But no, I was like, oh, yeah, that actually kind of does what they say it does. Was pleasantly surprising. It sort of just works. And incidentally, I think it's really similar. I don't have any basis for this other than it's a Celestion and the same power handling, but they have a speaker that they've made for Kemper now. That's an OEM thing. And Kemper puts it in their cabinet, Kemper cab or whatever. I think it's probably really similar. I don't know. You'd have to ask Celestion to know for sure, but it's a 200 watt full range speaker that is supposed to do what their other one does. So anyway, that makes sense. Richard Morris says, I love compression in front of my clean and overdrive channels. Currently using an MXR. Love the tone and squish, but it's noisy. Is there a better choice? Not really, to be honest. Compression is just maybe, you might get one compressor over another that's not as noisy. But if you like the feel of the MXR and you change everything affects everything. So I can guarantee probably the Koji is going to be probably the quietest because John doesn't screw around with quiet. One thing he's always very concerned about is that things are as quiet as possible. So if you're like a quiet compressor that doesn't add any hiss or as little as possible is my primary concern, I would say the Sir is a good way to go because he's always on that stuff. That said, it might sound different than you might like what a Dynacomp does to your sound. So, know that the nature of compression is making quiet sounds louder, aka noise is going to come up too, right? And loud sounds softer. So you're compressing the whole signal. You're bringing the noise floor up just by the nature of the type of effect that compression is. Joe wants to know, or he's suggesting I should upload the whole call with Vai. I probably will, almost all of it. It's just that we discussed different things. I discussed 3 different things with him. One of them was talking about live performance and how to kind of, because I think he's a master live performer, and the way he paces a show is so interesting. You know, when a lot of people, like, you go see a lot of guitar players live, you guys can relate to this. You've been to a NAMM show and seen like performances and stuff. It just starts like, it's like, oh, they've shown me their whole bag of tricks in the first 2 minutes kind of thing. And it's overwhelming. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. But I feel like I'm overloaded by notes or whatever. Vai has this magic thing that he can do for an hour and a half where he just entertains you and takes you on a ride. And I'm pretty captivated the whole time. Mike Landau's like that too. It's a different thing, but you know, you go see guitar music. It's like, it can be a difficult thing. Well, Mike sings too, so it's not even a fair, you know, comparison, because there is vocals in a lot of Mike's songs, which gives you a little break from the guitar for a while. Vai has a way of being the lead singer with the guitar and holding your interest the whole time. So I asked him some questions about that and how he does that, and so that's an interesting portion of it. And then most of the rest was about the amplifier, about the Jose amp, and about his gear in general and his path with finding his tone, and how he just, you know, he got forthcoming about, like, he was like, I didn't really know much about tone and amps. It wasn't something I thought a lot about, like maybe all the way through the Zappa days and stuff. It's just like, it wasn't his primary focus. And then when he started playing with Roth, it was something he felt like he really had to kind of grow into and learn more about and stuff like that. And then he was really like, you know, he's very like unassuming, and I don't know, just kind of, and he's a beautiful guy. His personality is just like it's really warm, and he's not, for somebody as extroverted as he can be live, and you know, it's like he has such a great, his feet with both feet on the ground. I don't know, it's such a nice balance, you know, his personality. Anyway, a couple more folks up there in the super chat. Thanks, guys. Joey says, last week I asked about putting a reverb pedal between the channels of a Plexi. Could I try it to see if it works? It totally works. Sorry, I haven't done it yet this week, but you're almost making me want to just try it right now and show what you're describing. I just don't know if I could do that really quickly. But it is a great subject for a video. It would require me just getting a pedal power supply, and I feel like I'm going to lose people in the chat and stuff if I do that right now. But I can make a little video and show it. I think it's a better way to do it. It coming through the mic isn't going to really translate and stuff. But yeah, I'd be happy to make a video about that and do it for you. Or for, you know, it's a great subject, like how to run a reverb and delay with a 4-hole Marshall. I just have to remember to do it. One of those things, you know, all this stuff that I appreciate it though. Thank you. Chris is in the super chat, and he says, love your playing and fantastic ears for tone. Wow, thanks, man. I'm looking to find a realistic and easy to use spring reverb plug-in, Fender style. Have you heard a good one? The spring. Oh, the AKG. Oh my God. I mean, it's not exactly a Fender, but it's called the AX20 or something. It's UA exclusive. I don't know if you're a UA person, but it is so good. It's really good. It's got this great tone. I mean, I love it on vocals. I used it on Holly Henderson's record, actually. When you said spring reverb, I'm like, what is a good spring reverb plugin? And I had to really think about it. But that one. Now, a lot of convolution reverb plugins are out there, and a lot of them are going to have good spring. You know, Altiverb, I'm sure, has nice Fender spring reverbs. But specifically the AKG, God, it sounds good. It's a luxurious, warm experience. Some of the UA reverbs, the Capital Chambers, oh my God, it's so good, man. If you guys are UA users, just check that out. Ben's sending me Ben's sending me another one. Ben says you read this but haven't answered it. I think I did, Ben. Ben's sending me a text. Are you asking about the Thornbuckers on a hollow body? I answered that question, Ben. I haven't. I was talking about you know, that guitar and how I haven't replaced them and stuff. So then I was saying I've only got 2 semi-acoustic guitars and semi-hollow body guitars, 335 style, and that's one of them. And then my other one has the PAF and a patent number in it, so I don't want to change those out. So if there's something I'm missing though, Ben, let me know. I think that's the crux of it. Bent Tom says, check your phone, check your phone, check your phone. I did. You guys are driving me nuts a little bit. I love you all, but you're driving me crazy. I did answer that, says Stealth Parrot. Thanks, Stealth Parrot. No. Everybody makes mistakes. It's okay. It's okay. Let's see. One of Eddie's original Jose amps is for sale on Reverb right now. Really? That's kind of interesting. Did he really? Okay, I want to see it, and I wonder how legit it is. Ed doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that sells things. Not saying you wouldn't, but all those amps that obviously the main one, but also other ones like the unfinished kind of brown one. That anybody ever see that one? It's like a one that was stripped and then kind of stained dark brown. He still has that, and I don't know. I would think that I wouldn't know how. Well, I'm just being a little bit skeptical. Chris asked me a question. I guess Scooby-Doo is saying, what was it, Chris? It's hard, guys. I'm sorry. I miss some of them sometimes. Somebody, Matthew's in the top chat there, and he says, aspiring sideman here, do you have any tips for feeling out your offstage relationships with each artist that you play with, and how does that change gig to gig? That's a great question. It's really just a read the room thing. I don't know how else to describe it, but generally speaking, you just kind of be sensitive to people's, like you would with the boss, and they are your boss. So how buddy you want to get is like, it's like being buddy with the boss, right? It can not necessarily be the best for either the boss or for you. Although the relationship might turn into that. Sort of treading lightly and just giving them space. Rock stars are interesting personalities, and it is part of the, I don't know how else to describe it, but it's part of the gig for sure. A big part of the gig is knowing how to conduct yourself around folks. Generally like a sense of not like if you can let them be the boss, but almost like they're the boss of a company, as opposed so they know that without being like fanned out or something like that, or being weird. Does that make sense? So it's like a boss at work. You want to treat them with a respect and sort of defer to their judgment and stuff like that, while offering them your opinion and help. You want to support them. A sense of being supportive is, I don't know how else to describe it, but try and keep the star stuff out of it. That's what works best for me. Treating them like a normal person, but they are the boss is kind of how I go about it. Just watching what you say and always letting them know that you're going to, be there 300%, do the best job that you possibly can for them, that kind of thing, but without being freaked out by them. Yeah. Generally speaking, those folks like you to look them in the eye and be, well, unless they're one of those people that's like, don't ever look at them. But I would never do a gig like that. If I had to have that kind of relationship with somebody, I was like, so not into that shit. I'm not going to treat anybody like they're a king or, I'm going to treat them like a human being, and with, plenty of respect and the human, dignity and all that they deserve, and I will defer to them as boss, because that's who they are, and do my best for them, and do, at the end of the day, do what they say, but yeah, so you just kind of, right. That's the best way. Just treat it like it's any job. How would you treat the boss? Okay. What else? What else? Looking through the questions here. Sorry, guys. Forgot my glasses this week, which isn't helpful. I'm not seeing any. Somebody's asked about a pedal spring reverb. Scooby. Best pedal spring reverb I've tried recently. I mean, there's lots of great ones, but the one that really comes to mind is the Source Audio True Spring. God, it's a good sounding pedal. Really cool pedal. Source Audio pedals are interesting. They're these pedals you can plug in and get a great tone out of without tweaking this. They've got software. You can plug them in via USB and really get into deep editing, but you don't have to. You know, the sounds that they've got this nice fine line between complex and simple. If you want to plug them in and tweak the sounds, you can. If you just want to use the knobs and get a good sound, you will. So that's what the True Spring is like. It's a really nice pedal. I'm going to do a video for their EQ soon, too. They like the video I made for the Boss EQ. And I believe the Source Audio EQ, I think Gilmore's using it a lot these days because it's programmable. You can put it in your rack. It's the size of like a Phase 90, but it's a programmable EQ. You can store presets in. Very cool. Jason Wade is up there in that top chat, and he says, "You're awesome." Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. You guys are awesome. You guys are here all the time, chatting guitar. Satriani Live is also a master of pacing, much like Vai. That's from Joe. I totally agree. And they cut from the same cloth. Who taught Vai? Joe did. You know, his early instructor. Joe is one of my favorite guitar players, really, of all time. I really enjoy Joe's playing. I do. Yeah. What do I think about the Friedman BE Deluxe amps? You know, I've never actually plugged in a BE Deluxe. I know it's his latest and greatest, you know, but Dave's got great ears, and I know his mods and tones and channels, and, you know, he doesn't make a bad sounding amp. Doesn't make one. So I'm sure it's terrific with all the options and stuff on them. If I had to choose one modulation or multi-effects pedal to go on tour with, like a Mobius, Boss, Wampler, Terraform, which would you choose? Well, the Mobius is on my board, so I guess that's the instant answer. The Boss, Dave Friedman's a big fan of the Boss. He loves that thing, puts it on a lot of boards. You know, Boss Chorus always great, right? They're known for their good mod sounds. I actually have one, and I'm going to make a video for it. So, and that's a recent thing. I have one of those new. I don't have the 500 series. I have the 200 series Boss modulation pedal. Similar sounds, I'm sure. And then I have that new Overdrive too, which is the 200 series, I think. And I'm supposed to make videos for those. So I'll look forward to getting into those because I haven't tried them yet. Terraform's a really nice pedal. Smaller, you know, if you need a multi-mod kind of thing, you want to put it on a pedal board and don't have a lot of room, it's a good option. Works best at pedal level, I will say, the Terraform. I don't know if I'd want to hit it with a line level effects loop because I tried it, did it in my video, and it's definitely probably best in front of the amplifier is all I'm saying. But good sounding pedal, really nice, small. It's tiny for all that it does. Nice alternative. Richard is in the top chat. He says, "Are analog pedals more susceptible to RFI than digital pedals?" Not necessarily. I don't think so. I think it depends on the pedal. I always remember like old Phase 90s and stuff. You turn them on and then you sound like a radio station is coming through your amp. You know, things like that can happen. But that can happen with there's a lot of analog circuitry in any digital pedal. You know, before the you know, a lot of pedals that are digital, are, you know, there's analog front end, analog back end, and that can still so no, I would say not. I would say that I don't think it's an analog or digital thing. I think it's more just design of the pedal and things like shielding and stuff, probably. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go down to the bottom, see what's going on down here of the chat. Do I use the AKG BX20? That's pretty good. Is the soft tube spring? So is the old soft tube spring. Yeah, the AKG is the one that I was talking about. AKG plug-in, sweet sounding spring reverb. Love it. It's warm and gorgeous sounding, actually. It's like really nice. Have I ever had bare knuckle pickups in some of my guitars? That's from Ruben. My Steve Stevens guitar has his Rebel Yell pickups in it. They're bare knuckle. So yeah, it's like my hot rod Les Paul, that guitar, you know, it's like the candy red one I have. And if I need a hot pickup, a crunchy, you know, that's once again, it's nice to have one guitar that has a hot, you know, it's not something generally that I do for my thing, but it's nice for on occasion to have a real hot tone guitar, you know. So those bare knuckles do that for sure. A couple more top chat dudes. We chap says he's broke now. Sorry, and I blame you. Sorry, dude. He's buying too much gear. He just purchased a Modern Plus Sir with flame maple top. Never seen one that nice ever. Great guitar. That's awesome. They do. God, they're sexy guitars. You know, it's absolutely 100% true. It's like, let me show you mine. Where is it? If it's easily accessible. There it is. So a lot of people, when I play this guitar in videos, they'll be like, wow, you got a new Sir. And it's like, no, I had this since 2008. But this one's cool. It's a root beer modern. What do they call it? Root beer metallic, I think. So it's, I was like, if I get a shred guitar, it's going to be brown. It's got the Godot Floyd and the scrape. This is the first Sir I had with scrape binding, by the way. Which, you know, when I did on my signature years later, but this was the very first one. And this has the Aldrich pickups in it. And this guitar actually has the Guthrie shape, the old Guthrie modern elliptical neck shape, and it's awesome. Like it's actually, I think, one of my favorite Sir neck shapes, especially for a shredder. So it's a really, really nice neck, a little thicker than their other, you know, D-shaped modern elliptical. But it's such a fast guitar, this guitar. So it's fun. I'll hang on to this one for a minute. So with the way you feel about reactive load, opinion on the 2-notes torpedo reload. Did a lot of bouncing with UA Boss, Sir, Fryette, 2-notes in general. So the torpedo reload is the same load that goes in the Sir, and it has the nice reamp feature, of course. I gotta say, if it's an old product now, so just offering an opinion on the power amp is, I don't know. What I've come to realize is that the power amp is, of course, really important in a reamp device, and I think it's a good box, the torpedo reload, and the load is great, and I'm a fan of the 2-note stuff, and I think they make the load box is good. The power amp in the reload. My favorite for that is the power station, the tube power amp that goes in the power station. It doesn't sound exactly the same with the 6L6s and stuff as running into, it changes the tone a little bit, but it's not a bad sound, and the feel is all there of the tube amp, because you still got that, the damping and all that with the tube amp hitting the. I sort of have yet to play a solid state reamp where that feel is because there's something about you're loading down the amp and then you got that solid state amp going to does that make sense? So with the reload, that solid state amp that was in it, I remember preferring the tone of my SL68, for instance, just with using the master volume to bring the volume down, the feel and the tone of turning it down with the post-phase inverter master, or reamping through the reload. Just being honest, I just but that's just me. But the power station, pretty great for reamping. Still sounds great with the post-phase inverter master on the reactive. If you've never tried the post-phase inverter master on an SL68 or an SL67, it's a beautiful thing, and it really retains most of the tone and feel and stuff. It's not quite as saturated with the power section because you are limiting the gain, but so much of the tone of a loud Marshall driving it into distortion is the phase inverter. So the post-phase inverter thing, it's just, in my experience, in my opinion, it's absolutely it's absolutely true. Once again, thanks to VChap, for doing the super chat, dude. I really appreciate it. You guys are too kind. And there's another one up there now. You guys are keeping me busy today. That's okay. That's the way I like it. Thank you so much. Jason's up there in the super chat. He says, I built my rig on a budget by buying gear from your older board rundowns. Thanks for all your advice. Thanks, man. The reactive load IR changed my life. Me too, really. It's changed. It's huge, as far as productivity, me getting work done and stuff like that was a big part of my how I work now. Which Badger is most like a Plexi for both clean and driven? Which Badger? Probably the 30, but neither of them is really like a Plexi. So the Badger 30 does a pretty good Marshall-y thing, but it's its own kind of sound. But I think the 18 is not really that Marshall-y. 18 to me is this magic kind of, it's great for like rootsy Americana, slightly warmer tones in that magic, is it clean, is it dirty zone. Running the volume between 4 or 6 on the amp, and then controlling using your guitar, cathode bias, EL84, warmth, whereas a Plexi is an aggressive, punchy, different thing. The 30, because of the EL34s and the slightly higher power and stuff like that, it's got more of that going on. It's a great amp. But so I always say the 30 does clean and more dirty better, although it's good crunchy too, really good. But the 84 ones do that middle ground thing really beautifully. The 30 does the clean and the dirty really beautifully. All of them can do either and be pretty darn good. Any of them Plexis? No. If you want a Plexi and actually in that price range, I would recommend actually getting the PT15, maybe without the IRs, because now you're right within a couple $100 of a Badger. And the PT15 is going to get you right in the Sur amp that is kind of Plexi in a low power, same size as a Badger. Think of the PT15 with no IRs as the Plexi Badger. Honestly. And I think John would tell you the same thing. It has a very, very Marshall distortion channel with the added benefit of a true clean channel. And it's for the price of a pedal more. And I don't mean an expensive pedal than either one of the Badgers. So if you want Marshall, get that amp, honestly. A Very Dead Horse is in the top chat. But once again, thanks, Jason, for doing that. I hope that's I'm not just saying that because it's my amp. I'm saying that because it actually is. It's a Class AB power amp with, a much more Marshall. There's a video that I did on, comparing it to my SL68, trying to dial it in. You can watch that video and hear that it really gets pretty damn close. It's a flavor of Marshalls, basically. I don't think a Badger ever quite. It's its own thing, and it's its own great thing. Just the cathode bias thing is a different sound, though. It's a softer sound and a little bit less attacky and stuff. Very Dead Horse up there in the top chat says, what do you think about the Harley Benton guitar? It looks like your signature. Tried it? Annoyed by it? I was, just truth be told, I was only slightly annoyed by the fact that I went to the GetCon conference and they had it sitting there on a stand and showed it to me. And in the moment, I have a pretty good sense of humor, and I thought that the sort of the irony of it, or it was just sort of like I was in the moment, I was annoyed and thought it was funny all at the same time, if that makes sense. But it's just, at the end of the day, we're not reinventing the wheel here. It's not like it was its own body shape. It's a Strat style guitar with, you know what I mean? They copied an aesthetic. Because they're not copying the electronics or the wood choices or anything. They copied the paint, and it's not even like spot on the paint, So they copied the look, and that's about it, without any of the rest of the stuff. You don't have the bridge with the the cool locking Wilkinson, and you don't have my pickups. It's not mahogany. It's none of that, and it's not made by the dudes at Sur. I'm sure the neck isn't the same shape and all that stuff. So they just copied an aesthetic, and that doesn't bother me at all. It's just at the end of the day, it was a blue guitar or a black guitar. Those are the colors they picked, and I was amused and slightly, I was 65% amused and 35% irked. I don't know how else to describe it. Okay. Matt is up there in the top chat, and he says, you interviewed Ty Tabor, then Vai. If you get a few more of these under your belt, will you ask Ed? It would break the guitar internet. I know that, you know, and he knows that, I think. I would love to, but I don't. Obviously I would love to. There's no doubt, but he's a private guy. And I think in a way, he's a private person that is, you know, at the core, he's got a sweet thing about him. And I think he's, you have to respect his, you know, I just, once again, read the room, you know, and when I read the room with him, it's like, he's really tight with his family and keeping his, you know, his, he likes to, you know, he's had a kind of a tough go and stuff. And I think it's like, not pushing him in different ways is what's most important to do different. We should just be happy for the music that he gave us and stuff, and not, if there's something that puts him out of his comfort zone, I would never want to do that. You know, does that make sense? I don't think he's not like it. You know, it's endearing to see him like use Instagram and stuff like that. And some of the funny pictures he puts up with funny filters and stuff. I think it's awesome, you know, but the other thing about his, that I think is really brilliant about him is when he does an interview these days, it's generally with like Esquire or CNN or, you know, he goes big. And I think there's a good thing about that. The accessibility. I love that I've been able to talk to these guys. I mean, it's just the fact that Steve is so wonderful with, you know, anybody watch his live streams, he's doing 2 a week now. They're amazing, you know, and the fact that he feels comfortable doing that, I think is, I mean, we're all benefiting, and it's brilliant and a gift. You know, but some people don't feel comfortable. They just don't feel comfortable. And I think that's okay. We just have to respect that. I don't know if Ed, maybe he would feel comfortable, you know, but the sense I get it when I'm reading the room is no, you know, he's not really about that it's limited, and it's, you know, and luckily, you know, his wife is a publicist and she gets all that stuff, and is so, the Eddie Van Halen Smithsonian interview is the most open I've ever seen him do. That's Arthur. And exactly. And it's the Smithsonian, right? You know, that's this thing. So coming on my little, you know, I mean, it would be amazing, right? But it's like, I also, the fan in me likes that when he goes and does something that it's a little different. It's CNN or Esquire or, you know, very, very high level, limited, because it's the part of the mystique or something. I don't know, and it's kind of cool. So, tell us a cool story about working with Chris Cornell. Says, Huey, I think is your name. God, I got so many, but I don't want to repeat myself because I've told a lot of them already. God, where do I even start? Because it's like, there's so many, dude. Honestly, okay. I mean, some of the most fun times that I had where I got to go do all the radio stuff with him, which would generally be early morning when we'd be on tour. So I'd go to a radio station, get to play Like a Stone or, you know, a couple tunes, 3-4 songs with him, just sitting generally in a room in a little booth with just him and me at like 8 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning. So we're both tired and just hanging out. Like, how'd you sleep? Oh, I'm okay, man. I had a bad dream and stuff like that, you know, like that kind of rapping that we would do. And then all of a sudden we play the song and he's singing and I'm in the headphones. And I'm still tired, just waking up, and it's him, you know, sitting there. That's friggin' magic, man. I remember the very first, just off the top of my head, I remember the very first gig we did was this Yahoo Music thing that you could go and find. If you search Yahoo Music, Chris Cornell, 2007, it'll pop up. That was the very, very first thing that we ever did. And then we hopped on the bus and left to go on tour. And I remember he was a prankster and always joking around and stuff. And I remember being backstage, and he's not the guy to shy away from a fight or anything like that ever. I remember being backstage after doing the set, which was really fun. I remember doing it, just being like, God, I can't believe this is happening. And then being backstage and him like doing something where, like, I don't remember exactly what was happening, but he was like pushing. There was somebody like on the other side of a wall, and he was kind of messing around. Like it was like a door that was like in the backstage area, and somebody was right on the other side, kind of being, I don't remember if they were being loud or goofy or whatever. And he started like kind of pushing on the door like this, like kind of trying to like just being like a kid, like poking at somebody kind of. And then the guy goes, hey, like swore or something, that push it back, like stop, and he didn't know it's like Cornell on the other side of the door. And Cornell just goes like, like kicks the door, like stuff like that, like just playing with. I had the guy would have been mortified. Like little things like that, like where it's just like hanging with a dude. I don't know. What else? Cool story about working with them. I can't think of anything else right now. Those are the two stories that came to mind. He was pretty private, like honestly, and like not the guy to just, oh, okay, I got one. All right. We were in Texas and I went to do one of those radio things with them. So we left, we're going to Houston. No, we went to Houston. Okay. Let me think. I think we were in Dallas, and then we were on our way to like San Antonio or something like that. And so, but we had to go to a radio show outside of Houston. So him and I took off on a different flight and flew to like Dallas to Houston. And then we got in a car and drove really far to go do this show at like a radio station somewhere. We did the show, and then afterwards the driver was like, are you guys hungry? He was like, yeah, we gotta eat something. And the driver was like, I know this great barbecue place. It's George W. Bush's favorite barbecue place outside Houston. We're like, well, that sounds like probably we should experience that. So we went to this barbecue restaurant and we drove there, and I remember getting out of the car, and then we had a flight later that night. So I remember getting out of the car and bringing my computer in. I had my laptop with me in a bag, and we went inside and we sat there and ate barbecue. So it was just me and the driver dude, I think, and Chris, and we're in like a barbecue place, like, in the middle of nowhere, and eating. And it was really good. I remember having a great meal and just joking around or whatever. And then I remember going and getting back in the car and driving away and going back to Houston airport. And we'd driven for about 35 or 40 minutes. And, we kind of like tight, like got to get on the flight to go to, and we were playing the next day wherever we were going. And I remember going, oh my God, where's my computer? And Cornell was like, you didn't. And I was like, oh my God, I left my computer at the barbecue place. It's in the booth. And I'd left my laptop sitting there. And Cornell was just like, oh man. And he was just like, oh. And so instantly he would be the kind of guy that would try and help you solve that, It's just so nice, But I remember the driver hearing me and saying, and this driver goes, got wind of the problems. We're in a town car, and he's in the front. And the driver says like, just a second. And so the driver, I'm going to try and make this a shorter story. The driver calls his ex-wife on the phone, because she lived not too far from there. And said, yeah, I got this guy in the car and he's got a problem right now. I need your help. This is his ex-wife, and I was just like, oh my God, what's this guy going to do? And so anyway, long story short, he asks her to go to the barbecue place and pick up the bag and then drive it to Houston airport, which round trip is going to take her like, I think she lived like 10, 15 minutes from the barbecue place, not too far, but then she's got to drive the 45 or whatever to get to Houston airport, like drop whatever she's doing, for some random dude. So anyway, we got to the airport and I was so stressed because I'm like, I don't know these people. I don't know the driver. I don't know his wife. I don't know. It's my laptop's got everything on it. I mean, like, like everything, that for work, I'm on the road. I cannot lose my computer. And Cornell and his, I think his, security guy was with us too, Leroy. And I remember the two of them going to the gate, and I go, okay, well, if she doesn't get here, I guess I'll get on the next plane or something. I'll figure it out. And I stood at the curb and I waited, and I had to get through security pretty quick. And all of a sudden this Lexus pulls up, this gold Lexus SUV. And this nice lady hands me my laptop like this, and I took it and I go, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, what do I, what do I even, and she goes, just do something nice for somebody someday, you know? And I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. So I grabbed the laptop, I go buzzing up through security as fast as I can. And Chris is there just like laughing at the gate, you know, just like shaking his head. Cause I'm an idiot like that and I will do things like that. But it all turned out okay. But I remember eating barbecue and then having a freak out over my computer. That's the story I came up with for you right now. Made the flight and everything. Silly stuff. Those are the kinds of things I really remember. I don't know why. It's all out of all the gigs that we did and stuff like that, which are all brilliant. And you're in the moment. And I had a great time. I watch videos now sometimes of them and I'm like, I do not remember this show. Like, I don't remember being there. I don't remember playing this song. Where are we? Like, it's not something that I make, you know, maybe it's because when you're playing music, you're just flowing or something, but it's shit like the laptop story that I remember. Eating barbecue. Okay. I was thinking about getting your Thornbucker for the neck of my guitar and a Doug Aldrich for the bridge. Would that make a good combo? Says Matt. It'd probably be okay. Truth be told, I believe that the Aldrich pickup, John would have to confirm this, but I think it's really, really similar, if not exactly the same as their SSV neck model. So it's a pretty low output neck pickup. Thornbucker's even lower, but not by much. So probably be okay. Generally speaking, you can have a fairly low output neck pickup mixed with a fairly high. I mean, think about like a Jeff Beck and JB combo, right? Sorry, excuse me. a Seymour Duncan Jazz and JB combo. That used to be a real standard combo, or a 59 neck with a JB bridge or something like that. You know, it's a low output neck pickup with a high output, you know, pretty radically different. But that's just because there's so much more going on with output at the bridge. With output, you know, because the strings vibrate more at the neck. There's more energy there. And then there's less energy down by the bridge where they don't vibrate as much. You need a louder pickup. It'd probably be okay. To me, the Thornbucker neck is just a slightly more clear, you know, the offset coils, slightly more single coily and slightly more clear version of an